The moment I saw the color drain from her face as the judge read the verdict, that's when I knew it was all worth it. Every sleepless night, every shred of dignity I sacrificed, every risk I took. Gone, worth it. Welcome to Cheating Story Exposed. Please subscribe and hit the bell. My name is Alex. I'm 41, a software architect. I lost my marriage, my house, and almost my sanity. But I gained something far more valuable, proof that some secrets are too toxic to keep buried. Life with Bethany was comfortable. 12 years, 2 kids, a mortgage in the suburbs. Predictable maybe, but I valued that predictability, or so I thought. The first red flag was subtle, a new perfume. Expensive, something she wouldn't normally buy. It was called obsession. Ironic, right? I asked her about it, and she said it was a gift from a client at work. She was a real estate agent, so it wasn't completely out of the realm of possibility. But something felt off. My gut churned, but I shoved it down. I wanted to believe her, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I found out for sure, and trust me, the way I discovered it was worse than the affair itself. It started with the car. A gleaming, cherry-red Porsche Cayenne, $95,000 easily. Bethany came home one evening, practically glowing, and announced that her friend at work, a guy named Grant, had gifted it to her. Said he was feeling generous, business was booming, and he wanted to show his appreciation for her hard work. Gifted, she said with a little too much emphasis. My stomach dropped. I knew something was seriously wrong. My initial reaction was rage, blind, incandescent rage. I wanted to scream, to break things, to demand answers. But I knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. I needed to be smart. I needed proof, so I swallowed my anger and played along. I congratulated her, feigned excitement, and asked all the right questions. "How generous of him," I said, forcing a smile. "What a great guy." Inside, I was seething. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying the scene in my head. The way she said gifted, the way she avoided my eyes, the sheer absurdity of the situation. $95,000 for hard work, please. The next morning, I decided to do some digging. I started small. I checked our bank accounts, looking for any unusual activity. Nothing. Bethany was always meticulous with our finances. Too meticulous, maybe. Then I remembered something. A few months earlier, Bethany's grandmother had passed away, leaving her a small inheritance. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. We'd agreed to put it in a separate account for the kids' college fund. I logged into our online banking and navigated to that account. My blood ran cold. The balance was significantly lower than I remembered. I scrolled through the transaction history. There it was. A series of large withdrawals, all within the last few weeks. The amounts varied, but they added up to, you guessed it, roughly $95,000, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The paper trail was even more damning than I initially thought. I printed out the transaction history, my hands shaking. This was it, the proof I needed, but something nagged at me. Why would she use her inheritance money? It didn't make sense. Unless Grant was somehow involved. I needed to know more about Grant. I did a quick Google search. He was a local businessman, apparently quite successful, married with a wife and 2 kids. A picture of him and his wife, smiling and holding hands, popped up. I felt a wave of disgust wash over me. That's when my phone buzzed. A text from Bethany, "Late at the office, don't wait up." I stared at the message, my anger simmering. I knew exactly where she was. I decided to follow her. I know it sounds like something out of a bad movie, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I waited until it was dark, then drove to her office. I parked a block away and waited. An hour passed, then another. Finally, I saw her. She walked out of the building, laughing and holding hands with Grant. They got into the Porsche and drove away. I followed them, my heart pounding in my chest. They drove to a secluded restaurant on the outskirts of town. I parked across the street and watched them through the window. They were holding hands, laughing, and kissing. That was it. The confirmation I needed. The final nail in the coffin. My wife was having an affair, and her boyfriend had just gifted her a $95,000 car, likely bought with her inheritance money. 12 years, 3 kids, one lie that unraveled everything. I drove home numb. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't confront her yet. I needed to think, to plan. I decided to gather more evidence. I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed before I blew everything up. The next few weeks were a blur. I became obsessed with gathering evidence. I felt like a detective in a bad crime show. I started by checking Bethany's phone records. I noticed a pattern of frequent calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. I did some digging and discovered that the number belonged to Grant. I also started tracking her movements. I installed a GPS tracker on her car. I know it was a violation of her privacy, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to know where she was going and who she was seeing. The GPS tracker confirmed my suspicions. She was meeting Grant regularly, often during her lunch breaks or after work. They would go to restaurants, hotels, even his office. I also started looking into Grant's finances. I knew it was a long shot, but I figured it was worth a try. I managed to get my hands on some of his company's financial records. It turns out his business wasn't doing as well as he claimed. In fact, it was struggling. That's when it hit me. Maybe Grant wasn't the one who bought the car. Maybe Bethany was using her inheritance money to prop up his failing business. I needed to confirm my theory. I started looking for receipts. I knew Bethany kept meticulous records of everything. I spent hours searching through her files, her drawers, her purse. Finally, I found it. A receipt for a cashier's check made out to a local car dealership. The amount, $95,000. The date, the day Bethany received the Porsche. I had it. The smoking gun. Proof that Bethany had bought the car with her inheritance money. But there was still one piece missing. I needed to prove that Grant's wife, Alina, didn't know about the affair or the car. This was the trickiest part. I couldn't just walk up to her and tell her everything. She would think I was crazy. I needed to find a way to deliver the information discreetly, anonymously. I decided to send her an anonymous letter. I typed it on my computer, using a generic font and no personal information. I included copies of the bank statements, the phone records, the GPS data, and the receipt for the cashier's check. I wrote, "Alina, your husband is having an affair with Bethany. She bought a Porsche with her inheritance money. He's been lying to you about his business. Please look into this. You deserve to know the truth." I mailed the letter from a different town, using a prepaid envelope. I didn't want to leave any trace back to me. Looking back, the signs were there. But I'll get to the text message that changed everything in a moment. The next few days were agonizing. I waited, wondering if Alina had received the letter. I checked the news, the social media, anything that might give me a clue. Then, one evening, I received a text message from an unknown number. "Meet me at the park tomorrow at noon. I need to talk to you." I knew it was Alina. I hesitated. I wasn't sure if I should go. It could be a trap, but I knew I had to. I had come too far to back down now. The next day, I drove to the park. I saw Alina sitting on a bench looking distraught. I walked over to her. "Are you the one who sent the letter?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," I said. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she said. "I had my suspicions, but I didn't want to believe it. This is devastating." I sat down next to her and told her everything. I explained how I had discovered the affair, how Bethany had bought the car, how Grant had been lying to her. She listened in silence, her face growing paler with each word. When I was finished, she took a deep breath and said, "I'm going to confront him right now." I knew this was it, the moment of truth, the confrontation I had been waiting for. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll tell you how that went down next. Alina stood up, her eyes blazing with anger. "Are you coming?" she asked. I nodded. I couldn't miss this. We drove to Grant's office. Alina stormed inside, demanding to see him. The receptionist tried to stop her, but she brushed past her and barged into Grant's office. I followed her in. Grant was sitting at his desk, talking on the phone. He looked up, startled. "Alina, what are you doing here?" he asked, his voice tight. "I know everything," she said, her voice shaking with rage. "I know about Bethany, I know about the car, I know about the lies." Grant's face turned white. He stammered, trying to deny everything, but Alina wouldn't let him. "Don't lie to me," she screamed. "I have proof. I have bank statements, phone records, everything." She threw the copies of the documents onto his desk. Grant stared at them, his eyes wide with panic. That's when Bethany walked in. She looked surprised to see us. "What's going on here?" she asked. Alina turned to her, her eyes filled with contempt. "You," she said. "You're the reason my marriage is falling apart. You're the reason my husband is a liar and a cheat." Bethany looked at Grant, then back at Alina. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. I stepped forward. "Bethany," I said, my voice cold. "It's over. I know everything." I pulled out the receipt for the cashier's check and handed it to Alina. "This is the receipt for the car," I said. "She bought it with her inheritance money." Alina looked at the receipt, then at Grant. "Is this true?" she asked. Grant didn't answer. He just stood there, staring at the floor. Alina turned to Bethany. "How could you do this?" she asked, her voice breaking. "How could you betray me like this?" Bethany started to cry. I don't know," she sobbed. "It just happened." "It just happened," Alina repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You spent my inheritance money on a car and had an affair with my husband, and it just happened." She slapped Bethany across the face. Bethany gasped and stumbled backward. Grant finally spoke. "Stop it, Alina," he shouted. "This is enough." "No, it's not enough," Alina screamed. You've been lying to me for months. You've been cheating on me with this woman. She turned to me. Thank you, she said. Thank you for showing me the truth. Then she turned back to Grant. I'm leaving you, she said. I'm taking the kids and I'm filing for divorce. She stormed out of the office, leaving Grant and Bethany standing there in stunned silence. The moment I saw her face when I played that recording, that's when 15 years of marriage ended. I had recorded the entire confrontation on my phone. Later that night, I played it for Bethany. She didn't say a word. She just packed her bags and left. The divorce was messy. Bethany tried to deny everything, but I had the evidence to back up my claims. The judge ruled in my favor, awarding me custody of the kids and a significant portion of our assets. Grant's life also imploded. Alina filed for divorce and took him for everything he had. His business went bankrupt and he was left with nothing. Bethany and Grant tried to stay together, but it didn't last. They were both damaged goods, unable to trust each other. They eventually broke up, leaving them both alone and miserable. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's important to say the entire process was brutal. As for me, I'm still rebuilding my life. It hasn't been easy. I've had to deal with the emotional fallout of the divorce, the challenges of being a single parent, and the financial strain of starting over. But I'm stronger now. I've learned a lot about myself, about relationships, and about the importance of honesty. I've also learned that some secrets are too toxic to keep buried. Sometimes the truth hurts, but it's always better than living a lie. If you're in a similar situation, if you suspect your partner is cheating on you, don't ignore your gut feeling. Gather evidence, confront them, and don't be afraid to walk away. It won't be easy, but you'll be better off in the long run. You deserve to be with someone who loves you, respects you, and is honest with you, and remember, karma always catches up in the end. It might not be immediate, but it will come. And when it does, it will be glorious. Not going to lie, it's been a long road. But I'm finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm focusing on my kids, my career, and my own happiness, and I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned, even the painful ones, because they've made me who I am today. I hope my story has helped you in some way. If you've been through something similar, please share your story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more cheating story exposes. Thank you for watching. And remember, you're not alone.